If you are a beginning trader, or if you are a beginning trader in the no-nonsense Forex way of trading, this video is not for you. Please hit the back button and go somewhere else. OGs, come on in. It is momentum candles today, traders. I know this video is a day late and Dan's blog was on time, so a lot of you might have already had the chance to see his blog or his video on this indicator, but allow me to go ahead and explain it now because it is going to take a lot of explaining, even to seasoned traders. So let's get right into it. If you're new, I told you to go away. What are you doing here? Go here. Go to no-nonsense-forex.com, read that first page, watch the first video, get started and get caught up. It's going to take time, but it's worth it because you need to know what we're talking about. But for the rest of us, let's go ahead and get into the specs of momentum candles. The year is going to be 2020. The type is a confirmation indicator. The subtype is a chart overlay indicator for the most part. We will go over two versions of this indicator. Because the original version can be so confusing, even seasoned traders can get thrown off by it. That's why I told the beginners to go. You do not want an indicator throwing you off at this stage of the game, really any stage of the game, but especially early. And as far as being an exit indicator, this is the most defiant no I think I've ever expressed on this channel, and Dan will agree. And Dan will go more into it on the blog, but I think you'll see right away how trying to use this as an exit is going to do nothing but throw you way, way off. So I've hyped the confusion aspect of this thing enough. Let's go ahead and look at it. So here's what you have. Now we're going to zoom in. Don't worry, you'll be able to see this better. But green candles are long candles. Red candles are short candles. The whites, and you'll see you can make them white, you can make them clear, whatever you want, but it doesn't matter because those are irrelevant candles. You don't take action on those candles. Now you might be saying, well, VP, I see 3 short signals in a row. What is up with that? Well, let's go ahead and zoom into things here. There's a way you need to use this indicator, and I'll explain to the best of my ability here. So again, these neutral candles don't mean anything. The only thing that does mean something is when you see the colored candles go from red to green or from green to red. Those are your only signals. So right here, for example, you would enter a short here after the red candle, and then you would take this indicator off of your screen. Why? Because you're going to see this green candle here, which is actually going to be a long, but your system is probably going to keep you in this trade. So again, you enter here, you take this indicator off of your screen, and let the rest of your system do the work. Because if not, there's going to be a lot of things that can throw you off along the way. Oh, what's worse is for some reason on the MT4 strategy tester, this thing would not measure Bitcoin. And that's a problem. We have a lot of crypto traders that watch this channel. So what we had to do is create a secondary version of this. Now, Dan has a very talented in-house coder named Niels, who's already done some work for us in the past. And he created a secondary version of this that you might like better. Now, this secondary version, thankfully, looks nothing like this. It is actually based on the Williams %R indicator. Do you guys remember this video? If you don't, a long time ago, in the early days of the channel, I came out with a video on the Williams %R, which is a very common indicator. It is included in most MT4 packages. And the idea of it is an overbought, oversold indicator. So when price gets up here, you're overbought. When price gets down here, you are oversold. Look for reversals. What I told people to do is I said this thing does its job so poorly that if you just use it as the inverse of what it's supposed to be used for, you will have a better time. So for example, when price gets into overbought territory, don't think it's overbought. You actually want to go long there. So if you look, even on this example, if you would have just done that, wait until the line crosses and closes above, I guess this is what, minus 80 or minus 20, something like that, You would enter probably right about here, and that would have been the best trade on the board, for Christ's sakes. So you want the line to cross and close above this for longs or below this for shorts. And some of my smarter traders along the way have taken other indicators that have a very similar setup to this and traded it that way with some success. You could try this out with likely any of the stochastics out there. Eliminate the faster line, just use the slower line, and do it this way and see what happens. You could try it with the fast, with the slow, with some of the ones we've profiled here, the Dota, DiNapoli. If you have some time, try it out. Run it through the tester on your system, see what happens. So anyway, Neil's made a version of momentum candles that looks like this. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Now, this looks like too many signals because it is. There's really no way to make something like this and only give us the signals that we're actually going to use. So like I said, take the first signal you get on this and then take the indicator off the screen. This just might be a little easier to read and a little less confusing to read if you know what you're doing. So when the line crosses and closes above the green, that's a long, and what does the same thing down here below the red, that's going to be a short. And then get this thing off of your screen until you have closed out that trade. Both versions of this indicator will be available on the Stonehill Forex indicator library. So the big question is, it's a bit complex, bit of a learning curve. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Let's go ahead and take a look at the results. Before we do that, understand, it all matters how it performs in your system. If you see poor results here, test it anyway. If you see great results here, test it anyway. I went and looked at Dan's YouTube channel, and for some reason, the indicators that test out better on my videos get more views on Dan's side. So what that tells me is that people are watching and they're only taking the indicators that perform really well and continuing their education on them. Bad idea, traders. I'm telling you, test this in your system always. It doesn't take that long. Now, if you don't know how to do any of that, we got you hooked up. Down below in the show notes, there is a link to my automation blog that has an embedded video from Dan showing you how to test this yourself on the MT4 strategy tester. And there's other videos too if you're still confused. Somewhere out there on YouTube, I'm sure. What you're also getting is a link to Dan's blog. If you want the tweak settings that we don't show you here, that's where you find it. And anything else you're going to want to know is going to be either there or on Dan's supplemental video. I know some of you have already seen it. If you have an indicator to submit yourself and you want us to test it, we have an email address for you to send that to. We've already done a handful of them here. And then the place you're going to want to go to download this and everything we've done here on the Indicator Profile series, it is the Stonehill Forex Indicator Library. So, after all that, let's see how this thing has performed. On the euro dollar, not great, unfortunately. You can see you really have to decrease the amount of trades. Pretty obvious. You saw all the signals it gives you way too many. But even when you do that, for us at least, we couldn't even get 2% out of it. Just didn't really do that well. Did better on the 4-hour for what it's worth, but just not on the daily. Over to gold, which usually performs better. In this case, it's still not great. We have shown much, much higher ROI than this. Better on the 4-hour, for sure. Good amounts of trades, too. Nice win-loss ratio, everything. Just compared to what we've seen with confirmation indicators on this channel, it really does just fall short. Is this thing going to get any better? Over to the S&P? Yes, it is. Indices traders, you're going to love this. That is well above the benchmark total in one indicator. That's really exciting. We've seen in the past, at least the recent past, the 4-hour on the S&P get really, really high and dwarf the daily, but not here. This is awesome for indices traders and likely stock traders too. Let's close it out with Bitcoin. Remember, you're going to need to use Niels's version instead of the original version if you're trading Bitcoin, and it is worth it. Very good ROI here. Decent on the 4-hour. On the daily, keep in mind, much lower trades here. Again, you can get in there and make the amount of trades go up and probably still get a decent ROI out of it. But for this example here, the way we optimized it, 12 trades, and that number will probably go down as you add pieces onto this, keep in mind. But for that ROI, who cares? I'd do it. So even though it took a lot of explaining, this was pretty fun to go over. I like when we have things that are different and unique like this. And I hope you all get some use out of it. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. We do this every single week. We have the Trading Psychology podcast every Monday. Blog sometimes on Thursdays. We will have one today. Go to No Nonsense Forex and check that out. I'll have it out in about an hour after I post this. And then the 10-Minute Contrarian Investing podcast every Saturday. Traders, we have it all right here. Subscribe, hit the bell, give me a heart. See you next week. Go get it.